Far above Earth, 4 astronauts aboard a space station embark on an ambitious mission to push the boundaries of human exploration. One ordinary day turns into a test of their skills as they face an unexpected danger, a massive cloud of space debris hurtling toward the station. Commander Vincent, returning from a spacewalk, receives an urgent update from Jonathan, the station's operations specialist. 6 minutes until impact, Jonathan reports with a steady voice, though tension fills the air. He suggests they prepare for evacuation, but Justine, the communications engineer, insists on identifying the problem preventing the station from moving. Meanwhile, Dr. Andrea, the mission's lead scientist, coordinates with Earth to get updated coordinates. Justine finally spots the issue. The station adjusts its course just in time. As the debris passes harmlessly by, the crew exchanges relieved smiles. Their 500th day in space, halfway through their 1,000-day mission. The moment brings back memories of the day they launched. Quebec's president had addressed the nation, calling the mission a bold step forward in science and humanity. At a time when Earth faced critical water shortages, Quebec, one of the few regions still exporting water, had taken the lead in searching for solutions beyond the planet. Scientists had turned their attention to Jupiter's moon, Europa, where a thick layer of ice was believed to conceal liquid water. A joint venture between Quebec and an American company resulted in a probe sent to Europa, confirming the presence of water and sparking plans for a manned mission. Preparing astronauts for such a journey required rigorous training, and so began the 1,000-day experiment aboard the space station. The crew's journey started years before their launch. During training, they worked side by side, building trust and friendships that would sustain them through the mission. Vincent, the experienced commander who had walked on Mars, brought a steady hand and vision to the team. Justine, as the communications and electronics expert, ensured the station remained operational. Jonathan, inspired by the chance to change history, processed signals from the Europa probe. Andrea, a scientist and doctor, not only led experiments, but also ensured the crew's physical and mental well-being. Together, they became a family in space. 900 days into the mission, life aboard the station finds moments of quiet. Jonathan spends his downtime playing piano, reflecting on his visit to his mother's grave before leaving Earth. Suddenly, an alert from the probe demands his attention. He rushes to his station and calls out to the others. When the crew gathers, they receive the incredible news. Europa's waters are fresh, not salty as previously believed. The discovery spreads rapidly back on Earth, sparking hope for a future where water scarcity is no longer a threat. The president of Quebec awards medals to everyone involved in the mission, hailing it as a breakthrough for humanity. On the station, the crew celebrates in their own way. Andrea surprises them with a bottle of champagne she had secretly brought aboard. They laugh, joke, and dream together. Later, Justine asks Vincent about his time on Mars. He recalls the awe of walking on another planet, but shares how strange it felt to return home. Seeing familiar faces and places after so much time away was more overwhelming than he expected. It's a moment they all know they'll one day experience. As the crew gathers near a viewing window, they stare out at Jupiter. The giant planet looms ahead, a reminder of the challenges and promises that await. Jonathan and Justine decide to spend the isolation together, sharing a rare moment of closeness. Elsewhere, Andrea sits in her cabin, reading letters from her loved ones back on Earth. Tears streak her face as memories of home flood her mind. Suddenly, a signal blares, summoning the crew for another protocol. Andrea meets Vincent in the corridor, but they quickly realize the others are late. She heads toward the lab, while Vincent notices Justine stepping out of Jonathan's cabin. The implications are clear. Confronting Jonathan, Vincent reprimands him for breaking flight protocols. But Jonathan fires back, pointing out that Vincent himself had led the crew in drinking alcohol, a prohibited act just the day before. The tense moment is cut short as Andrea rushes in with alarming news. She leads the team to the kitchen, where they see shocking footage on the monitor. Montreal has been struck by devastating explosions. The news anchor reports that the blasts occurred during the morning rush hour, targeting subway stations packed with commuters. Hundreds have died, and thousands are injured. The president of Quebec delivers a solemn message, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice and urging citizens to support the grieving families. Later, the crew receives updates about their families. Everyone's loved ones are safe, except for Vincent's son, who is severely injured and undergoing treatment. Rumors begin to circulate that the attack is linked to the astronauts' discovery of fresh water on Europa. Communication with Earth becomes sporadic, adding to the tension aboard the station. Vincent gathers the crew to share grim news. Their backup team is no longer an option. Xavier, the astronaut who was supposed to replace him, has died in an unrelated tragedy. Andrea, who had shared a close bond with Xavier, withdraws to her cabin, overwhelmed by grief. She reflects on how he had encouraged her throughout her journey to join the mission. In a rare moment of connection, Vincent manages to call his injured son. The boy, with bandaged hands, expresses his fear of never being able to play basketball again. Vincent reassures him, reminding him of his strength and determination. Meanwhile, Jonathan teaches Justine to play the piano, offering her a small distraction from their growing stress. Suddenly, all communication with Earth is lost. Justine rushes to check the systems while Jonathan calls the crew to the observation window. There, they witness a horrifying sight: nuclear explosions erupting across the planet. Cities, including Montreal, are engulfed in fire. Frantic, they try to contact mission control, but no one responds. Finally, a message comes through from the German space station, but they too are in the dark. With no guidance from Earth, Vincent orders radio silence to avoid attracting attention. Jonathan suggests evacuation, but Vincent dismisses the idea, questioning where they could possibly go. Their mission, he reminds them, is humanity's last hope. 6 days pass. The astronauts stare down at a dark Earth, where not a single light shines anymore. Each of them silently grieves for their loved ones and the life they left behind. Vincent continues to attempt contact with Earth, but his efforts are futile. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Vincent confides in Andrea. He admits that after returning from his Mars mission, he felt bitter about being the second person to walk on the planet. Now, with the chance to lead humanity's most important mission, everything has fallen apart. His greatest fear is not failure but losing his son. Andrea listens, offering no solutions but sharing his sorrow. The crew begins to question everything. Why did they strive to reach the stars when humanity itself may have perished? Was their mission worth the cost? Their resolve weakens as the 1 Zeroth day of their mission, the day they were supposed to return home, finally arrives. Then, alarms blare across the station. The AI announces that the emergency escape capsule will launch in 2 minutes. The crew rushes to the hatch, only to find Vincent inside, preparing to abandon the station. Jonathan pulls him out of the capsule while Andrea seals the hatch. But it's too late. The capsule launches, leaving the crew stranded with no means of evacuation. Now, isolated in the silence of space, the astronauts are forced to confront their fears and find a reason to carry on. With Earth possibly destroyed and no way to return, their mission takes on a new, uncertain purpose. Tensions aboard the space station reach a breaking point as Vincent begins to act irrationally. His erratic behavior forces Andrea to step in and administer a sedative to calm him down. As the captain lies unconscious, the remaining crew members are consumed by uncertainty. Andrea, following protocol, takes charge of the situation, declaring Vincent unfit for command. She officially appoints herself as the station's new leader, though the weight of the decision rests heavily on her shoulders. Later, Andrea retreats to her cabin and reflects on Xavier, the astronaut who had been her closest ally and her fiancé. She remembers his proposal and the bittersweet moment when she chose to join the orbital mission, leaving him behind. He had promised to wait for her, but now he was gone, and she could only carry his memory. Meanwhile, Justine approaches Jonathan, seeking comfort in their shared bond. But Jonathan, lost in his own despair, pushes her away, asking to be left alone. Hurt, Justine withdraws, and the isolation among the crew deepens. When Vincent awakens, he explains his actions, revealing that he had suffered a nervous breakdown. He admits he doesn't even remember entering the escape capsule. He only remembers an overwhelming desire to see his son. Jonathan, however, is unforgiving, accusing Vincent of being selfish and cowardly. Their argument escalates into a heated exchange, only ending when Andrea intervenes to restore order. The crew faces a grim reality. They cannot return to Earth, and no rescue mission is likely to come. Andrea takes stock of their remaining resources and determines that, with strict rationing, they can survive for 25 more days. During this time, they must find a solution to their predicament. As the days stretch on, the psychological strain takes its toll. Justine begins to panic, questioning whether there is any point in returning to Earth at all. She recalls a conversation with a friend who had disapproved of her decision to join the mission. Back then, she'd been so confident in her choice, but now doubt clouds her mind. One day, unable to cope with the mounting despair, Justine quietly leaves the station and steps into the void of open space. Jonathan watches her figure drift into the darkness, frozen in shock. Andrea tries to comfort him, but her words cannot reach the depth of his grief. When Vincent approaches to offer his sympathy, Jonathan lashes out, striking him in anger. An hour later, a signal comes through from the Russian orbital station. A lone surviving cosmonaut requests assistance and prepares to dock his rescue capsule with the crew's station. When the Russian arrives, Andrea is struck by his frail appearance and the clear signs of radiation exposure. He explains that his station's reflectors failed during the solar storm, leading to the death of the rest of his crew. As the cosmonaut begins to recover, Vincent observes that his capsule is designed to carry only 3 people. With oxygen supplies dwindling, staying aboard the station is no longer an option. Jonathan coldly suggests waiting for the cosmonaut to succumb to his illness, then using the capsule to return to Earth. Andrea vehemently rejects the idea, refusing to make such a morally fraught decision. The cosmonaut, aware of his condition, admits that he is terminally ill and likely won't survive much longer. Despite his weakening state, Andrea holds firm in her belief that they cannot abandon their humanity, even in such dire circumstances. The cosmonaut reveals shocking information to the crew. The greatest war in human history has devastated Earth, and it was triggered by their discovery on Europa. Vincent, stunned by the news, asks if this conflict truly erupted over water. The cosmonaut, with a bitter laugh, calls their assumption naive. He explains that water was only a convenient excuse. The real reasons were far more complex and hidden from them. Driven by curiosity and unease, Jonathan scrutinizes the data from Europa once more. As he delves deeper, the crew notices something they had previously overlooked: a massive, mysterious structure on Europa's surface. Its shape and size resemble what could only be described as an alien spacecraft. The crew is left in shock, questioning why such a monumental discovery was concealed from them. It becomes clear that the Russians knew about this all along, yet they never shared the information. Vincent connects the dots and suspects that the war on Earth wasn't just about water. Instead, it was likely sparked by this hidden discovery of extraterrestrial technology. Quebec had kept the truth under wraps, framing the conflict as a battle over resources while obscuring the existence of this alien artifact. Filled with determination, Vincent insists that humanity has a right to know the truth. He argues that the alien ship could revolutionize their understanding of the universe, unlocking answers to questions about who built it and where they came from. Meanwhile, the cosmonaut, despite his failing health, thanks Andrea for her care. He admits he doesn't have much time left, a reality Andrea cannot deny, even as she wonders how long he has left to live. Vincent, eager to act, pushes for an immediate launch to investigate further. But Jonathan, caught in his own turmoil, reflects on a farewell letter from his father, a letter he had been avoiding out of guilt. As tensions rise, Andrea discovers that the cosmonaut has left the medical bay. She finds him near the evacuation section and realizes he has uncovered their missing capsule. Moments later, Vincent and Jonathan hear Andrea scream. Rushing to the scene, they find the cosmonaut holding Andrea hostage. Desperate to return to Earth, he demands access to the capsule. Despite the crew's protests, Andrea reluctantly gives him the code. However, she pleads with him, reminding him that there might still be survivors on Earth who need his help. Touched by her words, the cosmonaut abandons his plan and releases her. The crew regroups and discusses their dwindling options. The cosmonaut suggests using the Soyuz capsule for re-entry, but its outdated systems make it impossible to land without guidance from Earth. Sensing his hesitation, Andrea reassures him that he can still make it home. Vincent, burdened by guilt over the loss of their original escape capsule, volunteers to stay behind, believing it to be his responsibility. On the 126th day, the crew prepares for what may be their final departure. Vincent writes a heartfelt letter to his son, asking Jonathan to deliver it if he survives. Jonathan promises to find Vincent's son if there's even the slightest chance he's still alive. As the crew says their goodbyes, Jonathan makes a shocking announcement. He has decided to remain on the station. He plans to broadcast the truth about the Europa discovery to all available frequencies, ensuring that humanity learns what they found. Jonathan hands Vincent the letter from his father, asking him to deliver it. Andrea assures Jonathan they will send help as soon as possible, though the uncertainty of their mission weighs heavily on her. The 3 astronauts suit up and board the capsule, leaving Jonathan alone on the station. As the capsule drifts away, Jonathan begins transmitting the truth to anyone who might be listening. In the silence of the station, he reflects on his father's letter, finally reading its contents. To his surprise and relief, his father expresses pride and love, never once blaming him for the choices he made. In the end, the hints of alien civilization remain unresolved, fading into the background.